Good afternoon everyone, and thank you for coming and joining me on today's webinar on harnessing the power of social media. My name's Yvette Adams and I'm from the Creative Collective, and I'm very excited to be offering this webinar on behalf of the Queensland Government's Department of Employment, Economic Development and Innovation, otherwise known as DEDI. Now, unsurprisingly, this is a super popular topic, and I can see people arriving still left, right and centre. We've already got 68 attendees online, and we had many people register. So if you're still arriving, welcome. But we will get started in the interest of time, because I know many of you are busy business owners and this is your lunch hour. But thanks for getting online. Now, for the very first time today, I actually have a Twitter hashtag for you. Now, if you're not already on Twitter, this is not something you can get going, but if you are already into social media and you are already on Twitter, you will know what a hashtag is, I presume. The hashtag for today's session, we've just been notified by DEDI, is hashtag BizSM. So feel free to, pop messages out saying what you're thinking of today's presentation. If what I've said doesn't mean anything to you, I will give you an explanation further on in the presentation. And that's what you're exactly here for, isn't it? Okay, this is what we've got in store today. Just a quick little orientation for you, and then pretty much we're looking at some key points from the workbook. Now, if you haven't looked at the workbook, you didn't even know there was a workbook, that's okay. Basically, when you registered, you would have received a series of messages confirming your registration, and in some of those it would have mentioned that there was a workbook for this. If you're like me and you're pretty busy, you may have just overlooked that. But I do encourage you to go back to those registration emails, click on the workbook at some stage and download it. It's available from a website called smallbusinesswebinars.com.au. It's not essential that you've looked at it for today's session, but it will enhance your learning if you can go back and look over it. I guess it really depends what sort of learner you are. Some people like to learn through doing, some like to learn through listening, and some like to learn through reading. So if you're a reader, you might like to get that workbook. Okay, we'll then review some items at the end, and I will have time for questions. And I would like you to appreciate, with such large numbers on the call today, we'll do our very best to answer questions. If you've got something we don't manage to address, feel free to drop us a line after the session and we'll endeavour to get back to as many of you as we can. We may well group responses as well. Here's a picture of me. My name's Yvette Adams, and as you can see on there, for those of you who haven't met me before, I'm an award-winning business owner. I've won quite a few awards last year, which I was very proud of, including the Telstra Businesswoman of the Year and the Commonwealth Bank Business Owner category for Queensland. I call myself a serial entrepreneur. I love starting businesses, and I love helping other businesses get started and become successful. The Creative Collective's number 4 for me, and that's my main focus. Basically, we're a creative agency based on the Sunshine Coast of sunny Queensland, and we love nothing better than training other people and helping them to achieve online success through the training offerings, both online and in person, and also through our services, which include website design and development, social media, of course, SEO, pay-per-click, other online marketing strategies, and lots of offline ones such as PR, marketing, award submissions as well. We have a really diverse range of clients, and I hope to bring that knowledge to you today. So whether you're just small and starting out and trying to get the hang of social media and what that might mean to you in your business, or whether you're really very established, maybe even very established in both business and social networks, I hope today I can give you a few pearls of wisdom to take away and implement. I am a mum of 2. I like pointing that out because often many people are juggling business with being a parent as well, and it can be quite a juggle at times. Just on that, I'd like you to click on the red arrow, which you should be able to see as part of this technology, and make sure that you've got this menu expanded. Once you've got the menu expanded, I'd like you to raise your hand if you're also a parent, because it'll let me know that you're here, you're awake, and you've worked out this technology. So great, I can already see some little yellow hands going up. Lots of people are parents, cool. If you haven't worked out how to do this, don't worry, there'll be lots of opportunities, but the key message is expand the red arrow, and then you can click in the column where there's a little hand. Another little tip though, once you put up your hand, please do place it down, because then I know you've been looked after. You will be using the hand towards the end to ask questions, so I will be unmuting you, presuming you've got a question to ask if your hand is up. Okay, social media. What's it all about? What's happening in the world of social media? Well, I need to communicate a lot with you and in a short time frame. So I'm going to use a lot of pretty pictures today. But this graphic, which is by a guy called Brian Solis, who is very well known in the world of social media, you might like to go and look him up, I think really represents that there is a lot going on in social media, perhaps even more than you even realised. Now have a quick look at those. I realise some of the logos are quite small, but have a look at that and consider which ones you know, which ones maybe you're already using, and which ones perhaps you've never even heard of. You'll notice they're groups into practical applications for social media. So, you know, over on the left there, at, say 1:45 and o'clock, you can see there's an events tab. So consider if you are in the area of running events, maybe you should be having a look at some of those social networks. If you're in the area, let's say, of being a photographer, up the top at say 5:02 on the clock is one called Pictures. So if you're a photographer, a social network like Flickr might be really useful to you. Similarly, if you're a jeweler or an artist or sort of promoting some other visual product, that could be a really good one to know. So in short, there's lots and lots happening. Now, I can't possibly cover off all of those today, but what I'm going to focus on is what I call the big four in social media. They are predominantly Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And I've got some stats to tell you just how big they are today. Now, hands up if any of you actually joined us on our social media session back in April. And this is our second time round for you. You wanted a recap, maybe an update. There's a few hands going up there. Cool, well welcome back, because I've had to change these slides quite dramatically, to be honest, since April. I had a funny conversation with a guy just before that, you know, there's people getting around speaking on topics that they've used the same presentation for 20 years and you pretty much press play with them. But social media is certainly not that kind of environment. Things are changing very quickly, so I commend you for recognising that and jumping on anyway today. Now, if you were on last time, you'll remember that we actually looked at Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn last time. We worked out from the feedback and also our own sense of how the presentation went that that was quite a lot to cover. So today we're really going to hone in on Facebook and Twitter. Now, I can't confirm any definites, but there is discussions taking place about the possibility of offering a LinkedIn-only session next year. So stay tuned for information on that. YouTube we're not covering, but it is a very important social network. It's the second biggest search engine on the planet. Google owns it. It bought it a few years ago. And video is very much a very good marketing strategy for you. But unfortunately, we can't cover off too much today. Again, stay tuned for perhaps more on that one. Now, apart from those four very established, very well-known networks, I also wanted to highlight to you that there's lots of up-and-comers as well. I'm sure many of you will be aware that we now have Google Plus on our dial as well. Out of curiosity, hands up if you're already on Google Plus as a person for your profile. Let's start there. Quite a few of you. Now, that could be an action point for some of you. Again, I don't have time to go into Google Plus a lot today. Perhaps we should look at it in an individual session in the future. But it is emerging, and the exciting news for anyone in the industry was very recently, just in the last couple of weeks, you now can have a Google Plus business page. So, presuming all of you are business owners, that's something you need to be aware of. Now, Pinterest, I caught that on my research, and that's actually a pin board sort of system. At the moment, you have to request an invite to get invited to the network. It's not open slather. But again, that would really suit you if you are in a visual type business arrangement where you're trying to communicate what it is you do in a visual sense. So check that one out. Foursquare is one of my all-time favorites, actually. If anyone's my Facebook friend who happens to be online today, you'll know that I check in a lot. Foursquare is basically a mix of, you know, how would you describe it? A location-based thing meets your social network. So there's, you can check into places and your whole social network will find out that you're there. From a business perspective, if you want to get foot traffic, people knowing where you are, what you offer, what people think of what you're offering, then you need to get yourself on Foursquare. Now, it's not very popular in Australia currently at all, but I'll tell you it's very, very popular in America. So I think all I want to suggest is that you go and look up these websites after the session and look at whether they're practically applicable to you. Now, here's one I don't imagine many people have heard of, Oink. Hands up if you have heard of Oink. Jazz has. Darren's got his hand up, but it might be from before. A few hands up down the bottom there too. Look, Oink is, I think, taking Foursquare and location-based marketing to a whole new level. So not only will you be able to check into a place like you can on Foursquare, but you'll actually be able to rate the things inside the place. So let's take an example. Let's say an Indian restaurant. Not only will you be able to check into the Indian restaurant, you'll be able to say what you thought of a particular dish on their menu, say the butter chicken, and whether it was up to scratch in terms of butter chickens that you've had in the past or what you expected from that restaurant. So what this means to you as a business owner is that whether you choose to participate in social media or not, there are people out there setting up these networks, other people using these networks, and they may well be rating your service, your product, right down to that granular level like the particular item on the menu. You need to be aware of that. You need to be monitoring what's being said, whether it's positive or negative, and considering whether you should respond and how to respond. And that's some of the really important topics we'll be looking at today. Here's another slide which I think really visually communicates just how big the social media landscape is, because I think that's pretty important to understand, particularly if you're quite new to this. You can see down here, I'll move my cursor, 700 million people on Facebook at the time this was created. Do you know it's actually just ticked over 800 million? That's how fast this stuff is moving. And this slide was presented by a guy, Andy Lark, at a presentation I was at just in September. So it's growing very, very fast. A really important stat here, and a reason why we're focusing on Facebook today, is that it is the second most popular website in Australia, did you know? So if you're looking to connect to market, where are the people hanging out? Well, they're very much hanging out on Facebook for hours and hours a day. There's other stats there you can browse over and take for what suits you, but lots of internet users are using social networks. Many people are joining LinkedIn. That's very, very important network to be aware of if you're looking at business-to-business marketing strategies. 50% of people visit Facebook daily. I think this is an important stat over here, that 38% are actually interacting with a brand on the social networks. So if you're still grappling with why would you do it and how do you actually get results, the fact is it's a way to engage with your customers or potential customers. It's a whole new marketing channel that's not been open to us previously. Now there's some quite big wide open stats, but I thought you might like to know what is actually happening in Australia. So I went around and I dug out some stats that are current as of October 2011. Now this is the number of users using these social networks per month. And you can see Facebook's right up there on the top. So in Australia, just Australia, there are 10 million people using Facebook per month. That's about half the Australian population. YouTube's the second biggest, and that's up there pretty high. Blogspot, which is a blogging platform, and yet again, that's not something we'll be covering today. It's a whole topic unto itself, but blogging is certainly a form of social marketing that you need to be aware of and perhaps consider as to its suitability for yourself. LinkedIn is the next most popular. We're up to 2.2 million. We clocked over at 2 million in February this year, so there's now another 200,000 people. I mean, that's the size of a good-sized city in Australia that are now on LinkedIn in Australia. WordPress, that's another blogging platform. A lot of people also use it for their CMS or content management system or website system. That's 1.8 million. Same amount of people using Twitter. Down the ranks to Flickr, the photo channel. Tumblr, which is a social bookmarking site, is really surprisingly on the list. A lot of people obviously are sharing and bookmarking things through Tumblr. MySpace has very much slid down the list. You can see it's one of the few that's gone down, 310,000 people. And then finally, I've highlighted in orange, Google Plus has emerged. It's now got 502,000 users. That's 500,000 in Australia alone. Now that's grown pretty fast when you consider that this only came out this year. Now a lot of people say to me, well, they're great figures, but you know what, I really don't think my target market are actually on these networks. Well, a really surprising figure I just love sharing with people to explain to them is that the fastest growing demographic on Facebook is actually females aged 55 plus. The interesting thing about that, I mean, one, consider who you know of that age that maybe has got on Facebook in the last wee while. I know certainly my mum falls into that age group and she's on there, but you know, I think it's because families are living more apart than ever and we're busier than ever. but it's a nice way to perhaps keep in touch and share our lives when we're not always doing it in person. Now, some people really struggle with that, and I think it is a real shame that perhaps we're not going and having cups of tea with our grandparents as much as perhaps we used to, but I do think it is a really positive thing that perhaps people who want to stay connected to friends and family and feel like they are part of society and do know what's going on and can participate, it can be a really positive thing as well. All right, so I try and really get myself in your shoes, and you know what, I'm a small business owner just like you, and I thought if I'm going to show some stuff today, what is it that I need to show you? And the question that I get asked a lot is, why social media for business? Really, does it work? How does it work? Why should I do it? Why should I invest my time? Well, that is a really big talking point to discuss, but I can tell you that 51% of Facebook and 67% of Twitter users are more likely to buy once becoming a fan or a follower. So there's that aspect to consider. The other aspect is the fact that it's another database. You know, once upon a time, it was all about driving people to your website and then trying to get them to sign up to your newsletter or download your ebook or something like that to build a database. But these days, people are more shy of signing up to databases than ever. I don't know about you, but my email inbox is overrun. So I'm looking at ways to offer information and build my databases. Yes, I still do e-marketing, but it's not the only strategy. And I would much rather have someone like my Facebook business page and be able to continue to communicate with them than not have them at all because they're too shy to sign up to the database page. So that's another good reason to open it up. Also, different markets, you know, consider young males. If they're your market, then they may well like to connect to you on Twitter and communicate that way. And a lot of commuters and people who use smartphones are very much using Twitter as well. So look, there's a range of other multitudes. It's kind of a topic unto itself in a way as well. But I thought this quote here from Nielsen also summed it up quite well about why social media is so good for business, and that's that it provides more customer touch points, more methods of content communication, distribution, and more information about consumer preferences. The feedback, the level of feedback you can get from social media is certainly a very useful point. There was a great example at an event I was at last night where a guy talked about how Toshiba released a laptop, and how that laptop, the production team had not picked up, had keys that were very close together. Now, when that went out to market, a lot of people in the Twitter community commented that the keys were too close together and they didn't like that laptop. And luckily enough, they had a Twitter account to get that feedback, to solicit it. Not only that, they actually took it on board and they went back to their team and went, you know what, we didn't even notice that in the production and the testing and the release. And then they fixed the problem. They re-released it with a better gap in the keys, and they said, you know what, Twitter community, thank you so much for that valuable feedback. We're going to give 1,000 of you a free laptop. Now, how good do you think that was for their PR and the good feeling towards that company? So that's how, you know, in a practical sense, a case study, this stuff can really be used. Now, to explain the processes I think you need to go through when it comes to social media, I've devised this little success wheel. This is not from anybody else but me, and it's a new addition to this presentation, as those of you who were on last time will remember. Now, I've coloured in point 1 and point 2 because that's about the parts I can cover today, and even point 2, we're only scratching the surface of the training. So what I suggest is that if you find today valuable, you probably do seek out further training because, you know, you will get a lot further than if you spend a lot of time on the stuff yourself just trying to work it out. Now, let's look at strategy, policy, and setup. We'll look at them more in depth, but that's where you need to start. And the mistake I think a lot of business owners are making is they're doing setup, but they're actually not considering the strategy or the policy at all. They're just going in and they're, you know, opening up a new business page because they can. And that's great if you've got the initiative to do that. If you don't have a clear strategy, you're not going to know where you're going. It's kind of like that analogy where you don't have a destination, you don't have a map, you're going to pretty much get lost along the way. You'll be tired, you'll be hungry, it'll be a long journey. The other thing is policy. There's a great saying out there by a guy called Scott Mehrman from a company called Unmarketed, and he basically says that now every employee is a marketer in this new world, and every consumer is also a reporter, and I couldn't agree more. You know, whether you like it or not, your staff, if you have them, are quite possibly on social networks, either in a professional or a personal context. And you as an employer have a duty of care to educate them about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And what is acceptable for one of you may not be acceptable for somebody else. So you need to give your social media policy some good thought, and the fact is you need to have one. You then need to get training in place to make sure that the staff or yourself are going to be implementing the social media in a best practice fashion. And I'm going to cover some of the top mistakes that people do make that I see every day. Finally, we can get into engagement. Once it's all set up correctly, we've got some parameters, we've got some training on board, then we can get into some fun stuff and actually interacting. From there, you've got to have some monitoring things in place to track and measure how that level of engagement is going, whether it's positive, negative, the sentiment, the level of it, the amount of it, the number of people. And finally, we measure that and we refine it. And then that might require amendments to the strategy, amendments to the setup. It might involve setting up new networks and so on. And so we go around in the wheel. So if nothing else, that might be a useful thing to print out and have on hand to consider what processes you may need to go through with social media. Now, the other really important consideration with social media is thinking about which networks for you are right for you, because I can tell you right now, not all networks are right for everybody. Just because I put up that slide right at the start of the big four, the YouTube, the LinkedIn, the Facebook, the Twitter, doesn't mean that you should go out all guns blazing, setting up on all of them and trying to be everything to everyone in all of them. Really comes down to who you are, what you do in business, and some of these things on the list here. So, you've got to think really carefully about what business objectives are you trying to fulfill. And I'll give you some ideas of what they may be on the next slide. Who is your target market? What's your resources like? How much time do you have to invest in social media? Because, you can say social media is free, which it kind of is, but you know what? There is a cost, and that is your time. You've also got to think about what money you might have to invest in this, whether it be on social media advertising spend, which I can explain to you some options there, or whether it is engaging a professional or engaging in some training to get to a point where you need to be to make a good job of this. I mean, I'll give you the other analogy. There's a huge difference, isn't there, between a website we may perhaps be able to knock up ourselves and one perhaps a professional has made for us. So same goes with social media. The results can be dramatic. You also need to think about your skills and your inclination, I always say too, because if this stuff doesn't excite you, you may be best to give it to someone else. Now, a big mistake I see a lot of businesses making is giving it to the young ones. They'll say, oh, well, my niece or nephew's pretty clever. They're on Facebook. They can do it for me because I don't really get it. But I would err on the side of warning there, and that is kind of like handing over your reputation and saying, do whatever you like. I mean, you wouldn't hand over to your nephew or your niece, would you, to go and do your PR and say whatever they want in the media, would you? Because you wouldn't necessarily presume that they have the I guess, the diplomacy to execute that in a way that perhaps you'd want it executed. So I would suggest that social media is an environment with a big amplification. That is, people can tell people, so be very careful with that. Only do that sort of strategy if you give them some parameters to work with and there is some sort of monitoring in place. So consider, is assistance needed and who that might be, and importantly, how you'll measure the results. What results do you actually want? Do you want, 500 likers on your business page, your Facebook business page in the next month or the next year? Do you measure results or success through the number of leads you're generating through a particular social network? And the list goes on. There's all sorts of options you can have here. So let's look at what business objectives you can fulfill, because that might help you work out what you're trying to do and therefore what results you're going for of these. You could update your community of news if that's something you're trying to get out there. I just met, just before this webinar session actually, a local company here who's employing people, growing, producing new things, doing great things, and their objective is literally to get out and update the community of their positive news. So social media will certainly be an environment that we can assist them to do that in. You might want to run occasional social media only discounts and specials. Now, I've seen examples of businesses in America who actually have huge big Twitter signs, for instance, on their pizza joint because they're promoting the fact that if you are a Twitter friend, you will get the best pizza deals that we offer. So that encourages people to sign up to Twitter and keep a close look on it and jump on the specials when they happen. You might want to show a more personal side of yourself from your public persona. There's plenty of big companies out there who are loving the fact that the CEO can interact and get a feel for what's happening at the grassroots level and then steer the ship in the direction it needs to go based on that. There's also people out there who otherwise the clients have not been able to interface with, and they love the fact that they can. They've got that voice. Now, I'll never forget a girlfriend of mine who said she had a bit of a bone of contention with a telecommunications company. So on her blog, she went on there and said, I'm not happy with this particular telecommunications company. She could not believe it when the very next day the CEO, not just the CEO of Australia, but the CEO of the world, who was based out of the UK, sent her a personal message and thanked her for her feedback and offered her a pretty nice, wasn't, to keep quiet, it was to say, we want to make it right. Here's a gift. I think it was a new phone. So that was, a great way to handle that, and great they had the monitoring devices in place to pick that up, or else it would have gone into the ether and they'd never know. Look, it can act as an alternative form of communication. I love that aspect. I mean, writing an e-marketing communication is good, but it takes time. You've got to really sit down and think about it. I love having 140 words or characters to play with on Twitter, being forced to carefully think about what it is I want to say. Similarly, you've got 420 characters on Facebook, so you can't waffle on. You've got to cut to the chase. You've got to make it grab someone, be interesting, and often provide links. Think of it as headlines is the way I like to describe it to people too. Feedback we've covered. To get traffic to your blog or website, hands up if that's a goal of yours. It's quite a common one, that one. Who would like to get more traffic to their blog or website? A few hands going up there. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, and you know what? Social media can do that. Now, the way that I can prove that to you is that we monitor a lot of people's website statistics through Google Analytics. And if you don't already have Google Analytics installed, it's a free software you can get through Google. I strongly encourage you to install it on your website and track it. And you can install it on your Facebook and track that too. You may need some professional assistance to do that. Anyway, what I used to see in the past is that initially, of course, there was no social networks. Traffic would come from both paid and organic listings through things like search engine optimization. Then we had the emergence of social media, and things like Facebook and Twitter would start being a source of traffic to any particular website. Nowadays, that keeps creeping up. And what I've also seen is that people used to go to the website because they'd search for it on the search engine. They'd notice you had a Facebook or a Twitter or other social network. They'd click on that and maybe go and check out your little community, what's being said, who else is interacting, how many are on there, etc. What's the feel for that company? Now what I'm finding is because people are spending so much time on social media for, not even necessarily business but personal reasons as well, they're often searching on Facebook for companies for one. So if you want to be found, you might need to be on Facebook, for instance, to be found, and then they'll go over and check out your website. Or it might be from following you for a while and just keeping an eye on you, that person decides, you know what, I'm going to check out their website. I'm now committed to looking through their product range, or I'm now committed to getting a quote because I like what I've been seeing coming out, and sometimes just those reminders too of who you are and what you're offering. It might be to network with others in your niche. They're called social networks for a reason, people. They're really good for networking. Last year my partner was a builder, or at least still is, and he was leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting home at 4, leaving again at 5 to go and study, and home at 9. So here I was, a businesswoman with 2 young children at home, needing to network for the sake of my business. So I did a lot of my networking online, and LinkedIn was certainly something I used in that regard, but it can certainly be done on Facebook and Twitter as well. In lots of ways, they're kind of like an online Rolodex, Never before have we had the ability to simply look someone up and request to contact them. And if they accept us, we're in. And you know what, Twitter, you can just follow and it's open slather anyway. The other thing is you can kind of tap into other people's address books, because let's say there's a company that kind of does what you do. You can literally click on their follower list, start following some of them, and you know what, some of them might follow you back. So that's a pretty quick way to build a database too. Hiring people. I always use social networks to hire people. There's plenty of people on there looking for jobs. There's a number of tools you can use. LinkedIn, of course. There's an app on Facebook called Marketplace, or even just posting a link on those social networks where you've got more of an audience back to your website where you've perhaps got a job description, or to somewhere else where perhaps you've got an ad. You can provide live coverage of an event. Just last night we ran an event, Web Wednesday, and we live streamed that to our Facebook page. So you might say, well, why would you do that? Because then people won't come to your event. But you know what? We offer value at the event that they don't get if they watch the live stream, which we offer for free. At the event, they can win really valuable prizes. They get goodie bags. They can network. We provide food. And, you know, on the live stream, they literally just get to watch the information. But I'm seeing a trend towards that. If you run events, consider whether you could be doing Twitter updates from the event or the live stream. You can promote events and launches and product updates. Really good way to do it through social networks. And, of course, you can even establish, particularly if you're a new business, or build your organisation or profile. Okay, I know you guys probably want guts, and we're just about to get into it, but you do need to also look at some of this stuff too first, because it's really important before you even get started. Okay, you also need to think about your objectives and goals. So we've kind of looked at that. You also need to look at the structure, consider the monitoring and reporting software, and I'm going to give you some names, and then you need to think about the delivery. You may even like to think about what sorts of activities you're going to do on social media over the next 12 months. For instance, competitions, promotions, polls, surveys, events. There's so many things you can do. And now we're in November. Really good time to plan perhaps 2012 and what you want to do in that regard. Just bear with me one moment. Now, I talked about at the start that you need to have a social media policy as well. And I revert back to my old journalist days, where at journalism school they teach you the 5 W's and the how as well. So to develop your social media policy, it would be great if you've got a budget to develop, to get a legal person in as well and get professional advice on this. But if you don't, it can be as simple as a one-page document answering some of these questions, like who in your organisation is going to be allowed to post, and will you encourage customers or clients to post? Secondly, I'm getting some feedback here. Sorry about that, guys. We're just changing that. Okay, so what will the social media posts still go up? And what are they allowed to post? Can they come in and say, I'm having a bad day at work, or yay, my team won the soccer, or has it got to be work related? I'm pretty sure I know the answer there, but you might want to document that in your social media policy. Also, is there a screening process? Because that is absolutely possible. Let's say you have got someone in your company, but you want to make sure you maintain the integrity of your online reputation. You may like them to schedule or write out the posts, you check them, and then they get plugged in and go. When are they allowed to post? There's some considerations there. Where can they post to? Does it have to go direct to the page, or does it go via an aggregation tool? And I'll introduce you to that in a moment. And how are they allowed to post? Are they going to be an admin on your page? Do they log in as you and post? Because there literally are people doing that on behalf of other people right now as we speak. Some you may notice, some you may not. Look, without further ado, I want to get into the guts of this, because I know that's what you're probably on here for. And right now, you'll see on the screen some pretty pictures. So what are these all about? Well, the first one is a stick figure. And I want you to understand, if you want to get started on Facebook, actually, out of interest, hands up, who's already on Facebook with their own Facebook profile, for them, the individual? Who's using this thing already? Quite a few hands. Gosh, some that aren't up, or some that maybe haven't found the hand tool. Interesting. Okay. I want you to understand that Facebook profiles are for you, the individual. That's what they're intended for. And a really common mistake I see being made is that people use the Facebook profile function to set up as a business. So how you know if they've done that is that you will get a request to be their friend, not their fan. And if they're requesting to be your friend, they've got it set up incorrectly. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, that's me, what do? I can talk you through some strategies when we go through the questions. Next up is a Facebook page for your business or organisation. So that's why there's a building there that is different to an individual. An individual profile can be an admin of a Facebook page, a business page, and you may have just one admin or you might have multiple admins. I myself let all of my team, 5, 6 of them, be admins on my page, and they are allowed to post and they know what they're allowed to post. Finally, you have Facebook groups, and that can be a collection of individuals. So that's, as you can see, a globe. They could be all over the world. And I'm going to show you some examples, or an example of a Facebook group, and that's a consideration with marketing. You might want to set one up yourselves or just participate in one. So let's look at a couple of visuals. Here is me logged into my Facebook profile, okay? Now, I want you all, you may even have Facebook up right now. This might be quite a good little exercise to go through as we talk. Go up into the top right account area, and we're going to look at these 2 settings. First one I want you to click on is the account settings, okay? Now, when it comes to social networks, these settings areas are places not to be feared, they're places to be embraced. Unfortunately though, a lot of people get on and they just hang out in the newsfeed area and in the profile area, updating their status, reviewing other people, clicking on their profiles. They're not always changing the settings. So I'm here today to make sure you leave using Facebook confidently and safely. That's really important to me. Okay, so whether you've got Facebook open or not, this is what should come up when you click on account settings. And this is partly the reason I had to redo all these slides, because they get updated so often. So you'll notice there that you can have your own username. So given what my name is, I chose YR Adams. Now, you may or may not have gone and got your own one, but if you want to change it, you can note that you can go into account settings and click on the edit button over on the right from here if you did want to secure your own and change it. Now, right here, if you're wondering what that is, this is a sort of new feature that is picking up what networks you belong to. So let's say you're part of a business women's network. If that's all correctly set up and Facebook picks it up, it may link in here that you're part of that. Maybe you're a school network or old boys network or something like that as well. Linked accounts too. You can link Facebook so that when you log into tools like Google, Yahoo, OpenID, you can actually have it linked. Now, some people like that feature. They like the fact they can click in and out of different things and not have to log in every time. Other people hate it. They find it's an issue for their privacy. I'll leave the suggestion there up to you, but that's what would come up in that area, and you can edit that there. Now, probably the most important of all under account settings, and usually a lot of people don't realise this is possible, is that you can actually download a copy of your Facebook data. Now, I don't know about you, but there was a big scam going around a couple of weeks, and my partner very politely informed me that someone was threatening to take down Facebook on a certain date, which is now passed, so obviously hasn't been taken down. But people who are a little bit worried were going in and downloading a copy of their Facebook data. And you know what, I think this is good practice regardless of whether someone is out there saying they're going to take Facebook down, because if you think about it, if you are using Facebook, you might have a lot of contacts in there that you don't have anywhere else. You might have a lot of photos in there that you don't have anywhere else. And it's just good business practice to download these sorts of things now and then, because there have been situations, it's not impossible, that your account could be hacked. Sometimes people shut them down accidentally. Things just happen. So if you just want to have a little safeguard, I encourage you to all go in and download a copy of your Facebook data at some stage. Hands up if you're going to do that off that suggestion. Lots of hands. And keep your hand up if you would, if you've not heard of that before, didn't realise that that was a possibility. Good one. Well, I'm glad to have taught you something there already. Great. Okay, here's something else I want to teach you, which is privacy settings. Now, this is usually a big area for people that they're not happy with. Now, usually by default, Facebook will set your privacy settings to public, and often a lot of people will click on the Friends button too. Now, there's this really big question to ask of who do you let into your Facebook network or profile and who don't you? Now, a lot of people err on the side of keeping it tight, and that's okay, but a lot of people do that because they don't understand how much you can customize the experience for anyone you let into your network. Let me explain a bit further. let's presume we all have personal friends who we hang out with on weekends and we share our deepest secrets and fears and hopes and dreams. And let's presume we also have friends, perhaps work colleagues, who we're not as close to, but we're certainly contacts that we like and like to keep in touch with. You can customize and take all of those friends on board as your part of your profile, accept their friend requests, and you can customize who sees what. So let's say you follow League and you want to shout about the fact that your team's just won on Friday, and let's say you even want to swear about it because that's you. You can do that, and you can customize that this message will only go out to my friends and not my work colleagues who that could be deemed unprofessional, who I could offend in some way. So how do you do that? Well, you go into the Friends area of your website and you click on Edit Friends and you create lists and you categorize the way that you interact with these people. So for me, I have a list of Brisbane business people. I have a list of Sunshine Coast business people. I have a list of barbecue friends, and I have a list of mummy friends, etc. So let's say that I am going to Brisbane and I want to let some of my business contacts know that I'm going to be there. I can do a status update and only let those people know, so I will customise who sees that. Because my friends in London and Melbourne and New Zealand don't care that I'm going to Brisbane for business, and I'm not going to bore them with the details. So once you get your head around that, this is a whole new world with Facebook. So where do you go ahead and change it all? Well, number one is you set up the lists in the Friends area. Once you have the list, you come back into here under the privacy settings, and then you start editing and controlling what it is people see. Now again, for each of you, it'll be very different depending on what kind of lives you lead, what things you're comfortable sharing and not sharing. We're all very different here. But here's some suggestions. I don't like my business contacts seeing what my friends might tag me in, a photo or a video, because who knows, it could have me in a compromising position. Maybe it's not even that compromising, but a photo catches the wrong angle. You know what I'm talking about. So let's say that happens. I've customized it so that only certain people can do that on my profile. I've done it so that only certain people can post or comment on my profile. I know my mum, ever since she's been on Facebook, she's putting 2 cents worth into everybody's comments, which is kind of amusing, but if it really got the better of someone and they didn't want that to happen, they could customize it so she couldn't actually do that. Look, I do find that this aspect of Facebook is usually best covered off in a live training where people have this in front of them and we help them to create their own lists and work through this. But in today's setting, in the short time we've got, I've led you to it, and I hope I've led the horse to water, so to speak, and I hope you will take a drink and have a go with that, and that you'll seek out professional assistance if you need it. Here's an example of how this can look at a deeper level. So you can see there I've got who can post on your wall, and then rather than just have it to friends, I've changed it to custom, and then I've clicked into there and you can see, you know, I've got a Queensland business people list. I might say they can do it or they can't do it, for instance. So it is a bit of time to create the lists and put the friends into it, particularly if you've got quite a large list of friends like I do. But it is worth doing because from there you can send out really relevant communications. You can feel a lot more comfortable that the lines between personal and professional are not so blurred. This is the sort of stuff too you really need to communicate with your staff so that they understand how you think they should be managing their Facebook. All right, let's take a look a little bit more at Facebook profile for you, the individual, just quickly. So I think most people get this stuff. It's not usually too hard to get your head around. Here's me and a picture of me. You can post whatever picture you want. Here is some information I've provided. Now, importantly, again, you choose what information you want to provide. So you'll note there, I'm happy for you to know that's my birthday. Maybe you'll even send me a birthday message. But I'm not going to let you know how old I am. I've taken the date of that off. I'm happy to let you know who my partner is. Not everybody is. They like to keep that private. I've let you know where I was born and that I'm fine with, but some people don't. I'll let you know where I live. Look, some people have very little there, and you, if you're using this for business, might just have that you're the founder, CEO of your company, and that's it. To edit that, you go into Edit Profile, and you can amend the settings. Now, these are posts that I was putting out at this point in time. You can see I'm using that network I talked about, Foursquare, to check in. I've uploaded a video. I've put up photos, and then I have my friends. So that's the basis of what you would do on here, is tell people what you're doing or go and see what they're doing as well. Now notice the very different interface that is a business interface. Now you can see here that I'm using some good real estate, and that's an important point I want to make, is that you can customize your graphics, and if you've got that space to use, you might as well use it. I believe in the workbook I give you the exact dimensions that you want to create artwork to go in that space, and I strongly encourage you to communicate not just a pretty picture, but what it is you offer, so that when people land on it, just like a website, within seconds they know what it is you offer, and perhaps even your contact details. Up here you've got your photo stream, and you can easily edit that and delete stuff. Now you can see some people do use that as real estate too, to communicate, maybe place an ad or put some of their services up, or maybe to showcase some of their products as well. You can have as many admins as you want, so you can see here I've got 7 and they are my staff. Oops, I'm going to go back up a slide. And down here you can also customize what tabs you install. Now for us, we run events, so we've installed that. We share photos, we run a live stream, we like to share our videos too. So you can see that that's what we've got on there. It's a big kind of topic to cover what it is that you should write, and hopefully some of the things I've already covered off in terms of objective and strategy will help dictate that. You've got 420 characters, as I said. Listing links is good. And when you do put a link, if it's correctly configured, you'll notice you'll pull up a photo and even more information. So that's the way to get the absolute most out of it. Now this is a little button down here on any given business page, which is where you can start using it to bring your friends over, because often your friends are your biggest fans and they do support you and they like to know what you do in business, and they can refer people to you. So click on invite friends, and you can choose strategically which ones you think might be interested in liking your company. And the good thing about that is when they hit the like button, all of their networks will see it. And did you know on average people have 150 Facebook friends? That's average. Some have a lot more, some have a lot less. But if people are seeing that, that's how this thing works viral, and you can start really growing your social networks. This next one up here, View Insights, that's a really good one. I encourage you to click on if you haven't already. That basically gives you some statistical data about how your Facebook page is performing. Now if you think, what, can everyone else click on that and see how my page is going? Well, no, they can't. You only can if you're an admin. This is the thing about Facebook that some people find it really hard to get their head around, is that it customizes what you can view depending on who you are and what the settings have been configured to. Now, importantly as well, you can also now use this button. This is a relatively new feature where you can use Facebook as the creative collective. So let's say I post something, it's going to come up if I'm logged in as me saying that Yvette said this. If I don't want people to know that I said it, I want them to think that creative collective said it, click on that button and amend the settings from there. One other key one I might cover off that not everybody seems to know when I'm working with them is this little hidden posts area. Now Facebook's changed it because people have started spamming each other's pages, and I can tell you right now that that's not a good thing to do. Don't just jump on someone's page and say stuff like buy my product or come to my event. You'll be very careful there. If you've got an established relationship with them, they know you, they trust you, and you really don't think they'll mind it, then that's a little bit different. But it's often better if you ask them to post something on your behalf. Now to counteract that, Facebook has now got hidden posts. So if it picks up that someone's posting on your wall, it's not you, they don't know if you'll like it or not, they're automatically putting it into hidden. It's not public. Your fans or likers won't see it. So if you want to make sure they do see it, I encourage you to periodically click on the hidden posts, and then you can choose whether you delete that because it really is spam, or you can make it public and everyone can see it. Because maybe it's someone saying, hey, good job guys, loved the event last night, or something really positive, and it's certainly something you do want to share. Now I can see a couple of questions coming in from Alana and Christina and Sharon via the text chat. Look, I will cover those off guys, but I do need to keep going through the presentation. We'll save questions until the end. But Sharon, in short, you don't need the workbook in front of you right now to successfully engage in this, this session. All right, so we've looked at a profile, we've looked at a page on Facebook. Now here's a group. This is something different again. Now right here you have a screenshot of a really popular little group called Queensland Business. They've got 721 members, and those members have all joined since January this year. So you can see over here, the group was created to give business owners an opportunity to see where collaborations and joint ventures can begin, support questions and answers, but it's not actually for selling. So here's an example that this person's put up. Can anyone recommend a tax agent? But can you guys draw the lines between there? You could be in there saying, yeah, I'm a tax agent in North Brisbane. I'd love to help. Here's my number. Or you guys can be promoting each other, which comes across really, really well. Now, there are public and there are private Facebook groups, and this one is a private one. So you actually have to ask an existing member to invite you. If you would like me to invite you, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to try and action that for you. Consider this in another context too. You may like to set up a group of your own, and that might be public or private. Let me give you an example of where that can work. I know of a fertility company here in Queensland, and of course they help people every day trying to conceive. Now, they can't help everybody because of a number of different factors, but to support them in their quest to conceive, they have set up a Facebook group. It's a private one where they encourage people who are trying to conceive to provide support and assistance to one another. So whether it's just an ear to, talk to, or to provide diet suggestions or alternative therapies and so on, that's now a really popular a group, and it provides that support. Now, to find groups that might suit your business, all you do is go into the search and search something really broad. So let's say I'm looking for a women in business group to join because I'm a female. I might write in women, and then you can click on that and it will take you to a bunch of results. On the left-hand side, you'll then see that you can search pages or groups. Click on the groups and further refine your search. So I might actually do that now live for you guys to show you what I mean. Okay, so here I am. Let's say I do want a women group. Now you can see I'm already joined quite a few and like a few pages related to women. But if I go down, I have to slow down because I see you guys haven't caught up with what I'm seeing on screen. There we go, that's where I am. Now if I click on the bottom here, because that's not what I'm looking for, I'm looking for new ones, it'll take me to all the results, which will show up in your screen in just a moment. There we go. Now I can further refine the search by clicking on the Groups tab on the left there. Now that's only going to show me groups about women on Facebook. So you can see it's a closed group. I can ask to join, and I can go through and see what they're all about. I can click on them and find out a bit more. See, a group for women and for everything she's interested in. So that's got quite a few members. Now that can work twofold. One, I might be looking for females to just network with and have support. But two, maybe my product is very aimed, my target market is females. Well then, if that's the case, you business owners out there that are targeting females, this is a really good strategy for you I've just shared with. So look, there's some that are international, there's some that are Australian only. Let's see if we tag on Australia, what happens. There we go, Women in Games Australia, Expat American Women Brisbane Australia, and on it goes. Lots and lots of groups that I could look to. Women in Engineering and so on. So whatever it is you do, there may well be a group for you, and if there's not, there's a suggestion, you could find one, or form one I should say. Now similarly, you can look for pages under there, and similarly you can look for people, and I can tell you there's a big trend for people doing searches in Facebook, which is an interesting thing to consider if you're spending a lot of time and energy on search engines. It's still a good strategy, but you need to maybe look at other options too. Okay, moving on from groups, and I can't spend too much time on it because time's going super quick, is Facebook pay-per-click advertising. So if you've ever noticed when you're on, on Facebook, little ads appear on the right. Now you might say, I never click on those, I don't even use them. Well, the fact is some people do. Now, you as a business owner have never had a better opportunity to target people, to hit your target market than through Facebook. Hands up if you're already doing this as a strategy out of interest. Few of you are, great. Because the thing is with Facebook, you can say for instance this scenario. This is a beauty school who is looking to target females aged 18, school leavers, to 30, or career changes. So what we've done here is we've created a series of 3 ads, and you'll notice there's one variable on each ad. So this one, that heading, that picture, that copy, this is the same heading, same copy, different picture. Which one do you think is the best out of the 2? 1 or 2? Maybe text chat me. And then we have a completely different campaign altogether, which is pushing a different service. So you can see we set these up, and a total of $689 was spent on it at that time. But would you look at how many people saw these ads across the world, because they were looking to get students from America, Australia, UK. They had 4.5 million people see that ad, and it cost them $689. They had 1,400 people click on that ad, which took them straight to their website. Now, that is pretty good marketing, I think you'd have to agree, because the average cost per click, 50 cents. Now, look, thank you for interacting with me. Many of you are saying that second ad is better. I'd have to agree, because isn't it interesting? Like, you can put what it is you're kind of advertising, your chance to do this to people, to learn about this, but this is something more emotive. It's a better constructed picture. It just is more engaging, isn't it? So you're right, that ad is the one that worked better. It's a whole topic again unto itself, so I'm just going to mention that it's possible. Have a look at it. There is some stuff in the workbook about it, and love to hear how you go with Facebook advertising. All right, into Twitter. With Twitter, unlike Facebook, where you've kind of got to decide profile, page, group, which is the best way to set up, maybe it's all of them. With Twitter, you just have to decide if you're going to tweet as yourself or as your company. And many companies are setting up with a company Twitter handle, it's called, or a Twitter username. And then they're also setting up Twitters for their people as well. For instance, a lot of media outlets, you'll have like whatever the publication is called Twitter, and then each of the journalists are actually amassing their own Twitter followings as well, for people who like reading about the stuff they report on. Now, we'll make the point that you should choose your username really carefully, because once you've got it, you're stuck with it. And namecheck.com is a really good one to go and search across all the networks as to whether it's available. In fact, this is a really important consideration when setting up a business, and it's a good idea whether you're actually in social networking or not at all, and thinking about it quite down the track, to go and secure those just so no one else does. Because let's say you've got, you know, the brand registered and the website and everything, and then you go and find that the social networks are totally covered off by someone who's really into social networking, same name. That could be a little bit annoying and damaging for your company as well. With Twitter, and indeed the other networks too, to find friends when you're getting started, it will allow you to pull in your Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo and LinkedIn friends. That'll fast track it. You can browse interests through art, business, technology, depending on what you're into. And look, the basic premise is that you should start following people. That's how you get started on Twitter. Be quite strategic. And it's generally Twitter etiquette that they will follow you back. If they don't take it personally. But that's also something to consider the other way around. When people start following you, you may like to follow some of them back too. It's a good idea when you get started in Twitter, because it is kind of a different environment and a different kind of language, just to observe first and see what goes down and what works. You can also set up tweet alerts so that when your name gets mentioned or your industry or something important to you, a trend, you can get notified. But there is this whole Twitter voice, and basically in short, the @ sign you write, and then you can put a Twitter name in. So if you want to write a message to someone, kind of like email, for instance, if you wanted to write me a Twitter message, you could put @Creative Collect, enjoyed the presentation today, or something like that, and I would get that message, and I may well respond and thank you for that. So there are literally people on Twitter that I now communicate with for business just on Twitter, because they're on Twitter, I'm on Twitter, we get it on our phones, and you know what, I get business leads from it. People saying, you know, I want to talk to you about this and that, and I've seen you do this and that, and so on. The hashtag thing is what I described at the start, and basically it's a way of bringing together a subject. So when we had the Queensland floods, might be a good one to describe, there was a hashtag QLD floods, and what that meant is that agencies like the government, emergency response teams, media, could literally look on Twitter for hashtag Queensland floods or QLD floods and pull up everything everyone was saying, whether it be someone saying, stuff my business, Queensland floods, or I've got a solution for pump that helps you get rid of the floods, or a direction to get out of town. This was how we amassed information, and I feel like as a result of that, that's when people really started getting the handle of Twitter. Now, it's a good way for you to get indexed your information. So, you know, last night we had a guy speak at an event on apps and iPads. So he's written us a little message this morning saying, at Creative Collect, enjoyed speaking at your hashtag Web Wednesday about hashtag iPads, hashtag apps, because that's good for his business. That will get picked up in the Twitter stream. Now, I hope that that makes sense to you guys. It is an interesting one to describe, because ideally we'd have about 3 hours to go through this stuff, but hopefully it does open a few brainwaves for you. So what does a Twitter homepage look like? Well, this is it essentially. You can see at the time I took this, which it's changed a lot since, I had that many followers, this many people I was following. People list me in lists, so they may do that, and you can certainly do that too. Just like Facebook and Friends, how I was describing, you can create lists so that you can send out a tweet for a specific group of people. So too can you with Twitter. And if you can take the time to set that up, you will get some really effective communication happening from that. The biggest trends will come out there, and you can also see what your latest tweet was. If you want to see who is mentioning you, and that could be communicating at you, make sure you click on this tab. This is what we call the stream of all the people that you're following, what they're saying. You can see if people retweet what you're saying. You know, let's say you put out a product special and one of your Twitter friends decides to retweet that. You might like to thank them, because that's helping amplify that message and get it to more people. And you can also go searching on Twitter for specific topics or hashtags maybe that you want to learn about. Here's my actual profile page, so that'll have all my most recent updates. Now, this is really important, what you describe yourself as. You've only got a limited amount of characters, so make those words count, and do put in keywords, because that will help you on the search engines. These are really interesting. People, they suggest which people you may like to follow as well. And you can also click on who to follow, and like I said, look up certain category listings. Now, you can also go into Twitter directories. Yes, they exist too. For instance, there's one called Twellow, Twellow, so like Yellow Pages, but for Twitter. So you could possibly go into your industry and start following people to get started. Now, there's so much in what I've already told you, although we've only scratched the surface in lots of ways as well. But one of the biggest take-homes and things I can share with you is this great tool, Hootsuite.com, because you certainly can, as I've been describing, log into your Facebook, log into your LinkedIn, log into your YouTube, log into your Twitter, and make a post and participate and interact. But that can altogether get very tiring, time-intensive, and it's just not productive. You know, you've got a business to run at the end of the day. So people, I suggest you look at this one, Hootsuite.com. If you forget this, don't write it down. The links are on our website too, under technology we use, as well as a range of other technology we use. Now, what this does is it allows you to monitor, firstly, your mentions. So what I suggest you do is set up on Hootsuite, and then set up to monitor your own name, maybe monitor your staff's names, definitely monitor your company name, and any perhaps trademark products or things. You know, if you make trousers, well, I don't think you want to monitor trousers, but if you monitor some certain type of trouser that you've painted the word, that could be a good thing to monitor. Now, me being what my name is, the Creative Collective, I do get mentions like, look, SME Collective, which is not that relevant to me, but I do get mentions where that is absolutely me, and I want to know what people are saying about me, and I want to thank them when it's a positive thing. And if it's not so positive, I'll give you some responses, possible responses in a moment. These are people mentioning me, talking to me, I'm interacting with them. Now here's the other kicker for this. You can actually write a message in Hootsuite, click on this little calendar tool here, and you can schedule it ahead of time. So you can see right here today that I've got stuff already scheduled to go out on my Twitter, my Facebook, my LinkedIn, yes people, all the networks ahead of time. So these were the posts that I scheduled to go out a couple of days ago, 16th of November, 17th of November. Do you know what? Here's my big secret. I've got stuff scheduled to go out until Christmas, because I look at all the events that we're running for us, we're promoting them for instance, and I'll work out I need to promote this 3 to 4 times. So I go in there and I schedule them. Another little strategy that might be useful is just once a week, sit down maybe for half an hour Work out what's coming up in your business week. What news will you have? What events will you be attending? What messages do you want to go out there? And try and consider getting out a mix of value adding, so stuff you're giving to people. Maybe it's a download to an ebook, maybe it's an invite to an event, maybe it's a helpful tip or link to an interesting article. 30% self-promotion, 10% maybe self-promotional, and it's also a really nice thing to actually promote other people's stuff, maybe 30% of the time too. So there's a bit of an idea of a mix. I don't like to get too hung up on that sort of stuff, but I do want you to know that it shouldn't be all sell, sell, sell. It should be a mixture of value adding about yourself, about other people, and that's how you'll get some really great results out of social media. So essentially you type in here, you click the networks you want it to go out to, whether it's one or two or all of them, and then you schedule when you want it to go out, hit save, and hey, social media just started taking up a whole lot less time, and it's allowing you to monitor stuff. So who is that news to? Who's going to start using Hootsuite now they've just been enlightened? Cool, we've got a whole lot of Hootsuite converts. And thanks, Beth Whitworth, for your great comment saying we use Hootsuite, it's great, because it really is great. I totally agree. Okay, a couple of last points, and I will open it up for questions. I know we're already at an hour point, so I appreciate you staying online with me. Managing your online reputation. I'll admit, and that's why I've got a picture of a bird being released, when you get into social media, it does involve letting go of your brand at least just a little bit. So for some people, that's really an uncomfortable space to be in. But I want you to understand that just like driving, there's risks, but you get the training in place, you take precautions, you drive safely, etc. You drive slower in wet weather, for instance, so that you don't have an accident. Because you could have an accident when you drive, but hey, do you not drive a car because you could have an accident? For me, same goes with social media. Yes, you could have an issue, but do you not use it because of that? My suggestion would be the benefits outweigh the risks. I want you to think that, you know, feedback is good, and you know what, whether you participate or not, they're going to be talking about you anyway, or your competitors. We don't live in a perfect world, and sometimes people don't always expect your business to be perfect, although I think some do. Negative comments, you can actually see them as an opportunity rather than a negative, to turn things around, to get that feedback. You know, maybe this stuff's been going on for years, that people have thought this about your service or your product and you didn't even know. And finally, social media is going to give you your answer. You know, back to that Toshiba laptop scenario, they could have been sitting around scratching their heads going, why are our sales plummeting on our laptops? We used to always sell heaps of laptops. Is it the economy? Is our new sales guy rubbish? What is it? But, you know, thankfully from social media, they got the feedback to pinpoint the problem and they solved it. Now, apart from Hootsuite, you can also monitor your online reputation through Google Alerts. So just go to google.com/alerts, and in there, put in some of the search terms. Same thing, I suggest you monitor things like your name, your company name, your product range, your competitors, your industry, so that it will tell you when something gets indexed on Google, and then you can review it to see whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. And I can tell you that I often find out that I've had media coverage I didn't even realize thanks to Google Alerts, and it's kind of good to know what's out there being said about you. This is my last slide. These are your options for response. Now, when things get said, you've got to choose your fights. I've been told that in being a parent, you've got to pick your fights, and if you're going to do it, follow through. Here's my options for how to respond on social media if it's something particularly that is not so positive. One is you can stay silent. You can choose not to say anything and not to respond and just be aware that there's an issue. You can buy yourself more time. You might want to respond and say, this matter has been referred to management, or we're looking into it, or whatever's your language, and then plan a response. Maybe at the next team meeting you need to discuss that this has come up, how should we respond, what's in the best interests of our company. Third possible strategy, one of my favourites actually, kill them with kindness. You know, I had someone that said something not so positive about me, and what it was that they thought I was ripping people off because I was inviting them to go to the premiere of the Social Network movie, and I was charging $17 to go. And they said that usually movies are only $14, why are they charging $17? Well, I picked up on this thanks to alerts, and I said to this guy, I've looked up, and you know what, it's only $14 on the special nights, which is Tuesday, and this event is not on a Tuesday. And if you actually read the event invite, you also get a you get free drinks and free food. There's an after party and a DJ after the movie. So I think you'd say for $17 that's not bad value. And this guy, because of that kindness, and I said, I'd even like to offer you a free ticket to show that we're genuine and we care, and this guy backpedaled massively. So I managed to nip that in the bud. So there's a good way of kindness. The other one is to just ask them how you can fix it. If you don't have the answer, maybe just show that you'll do anything. What will it take to make you happy? So ask them. The other thing is to make sure you see it through to the end, and don't always rely on a staff member to do this because they may not care about the company just as much as you do. The other thing is that sometimes this negative stuff can gain momentum and it can come up on the page 1 of the search engines and be quite damaging for the brand. So there's a number of strategies around that, but one is to saturate the search engines with good stuff, whether it's listing on directories, blog posts, getting testimonials and reviews, and make it go to the bottom of the pile because not many people click on page 2, 3 and so on. So were those helpful, some of those suggestions of how to handle negative responses, because that's something I get asked a lot too. All right, guys, a few of you have got your hands up. If you've got a question about anything I've asked you about today, I'm going to take a few questions now. And just in the interest of time, because we are running a little over, please just keep it nice and brief, as concise as you can. So looks like Carmel, have you got a question? Put your hand down if you don't, everyone, because I'm going to start unmuting you if you do have your hand up. Okay, Carmel's put hers down. Evelyn's put hers up. We'll work down from A to Z. Evelyn, hello. Evelyn, are you with us? Now, occasionally I unmute people and they can't hear, they can't speak. Their mic might not be configured. If that's the case, Evelyn, feel free to drop me a text chat and I can read out questions and answer them on there as well. Okay, let's try Eslyn Dooley. Are you there, Eslyn? You're now unmuted, Eslyn. Nope, she didn't have a question. She's put it down. How about Helen? Your hand is up as well. Are you with us? Helen? Helen, have you got any questions for me? Helen Quaife?
No, I don't.
Okay, sorry. It's just that
I'll lower my hand.
Yeah, thank you.
Hand's gone.
Okay. How about you, Jane? Jane Khan, can I help you at all? Jane, you've also got your hand up. Did you have a question for me? I like your sense of humour, Christina. She's written boiler, just like the Ferris Bueller, I should say, Ferris Bueller movie. This is what this is like at the moment, isn't it? Catherine Kerr, did you have a question? No? No sound. We're not having much luck. We usually have better luck here on these. How about you, Kathy? Are you here? Would you like to ask a question? Kathy Lather?
Hello.
Hello, Kathy.
Hello.
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Great. Well, we can all hear you too. Did you have a question, Kathy?
Basically, I'm looking at wanting to do an online business, and I have no idea of technology. Just getting on today was interesting enough. How much does it cost to go to a company such as yourself to look at doing media like this and writing web pages? I'm completely a novice at this.
Yeah, look, thank you for that question. It really does vary. I describe it to people, it's like building a house. You know, you can get a very basic house with very basic fittings and very, you know, minimal contractors required, or you can build $1 million house. So it really depends with all of these services. It's probably a case of maybe getting in touch post the webinar, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you about something.
So do you work with people though? So if you like start with the basic model, do you work with people so that we're able to, you train us so we're able to do things ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. We offer both training such as webinars, live events, seminars, all sorts of stuff. Our website has a lot more information on that.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Kathy. Okay, what about Natalie? You've got your hand up. Natalie, can I help you with anything today? Natalie Davey? Are you with us? Nope, hand down. What about Regina Delay? Are you there, Regina?
Yes. I've got a Facebook page set up and I haven't got many followers, and somebody advised me to do 2 times a day, put something on, and just like little hints, never try to sell, just I'm a beauty therapist, so just put little hints on, you know, like wash your, it's really important to cleanse your face every night, so just to post twice a day little hints and never try to sell, never put specials, or maybe specials once a month. Is that really how you run your pages, or what do you put actually on your page?
Well, that's only just one strategy. I think you're on the right track in that you don't want to go on and just do specials and sales, but there's a lot more that needs to be done to drive traffic to your Facebook and get likes and then start getting results. And you do need good numbers on there to be getting results. One strategy is to make sure that you're cross-populating, is what I call it. That is, make sure that your social networks are mentioned in your other marketing collateral, such as on your website, in your email signature, on any flyers you have. If you're in beauty, you can have signage up at your actual salon as well. So you actually ask people to like you on Facebook. Joining groups of your target market on Facebook, like I showed you today, could be a really good way to build up your following and network, for instance. So certainly people do go on the Queensland business one I showed you, and they'll say, I need more likers, this is where I am, this is what I offer, you know, and then we all like it and support it and tell other people about it as well. You could also go into those groups, and I don't know, I'm presuming if it's a beauty thing, maybe females, maybe in your area. So why don't you go and, let's say you're in Brisbane, go into the groups and search Brisbane, search female, search women, join some of those groups and let them know what your page is so that they can come on over and start liking you. That's just a couple of really easy ones to get into place. You could do an ad campaign on Facebook to drive likes as well. You could invite your friends, and the list goes on. There's quite a few.
And how do I actually then entertain people, or what am I meant to give them if once I have actually people following me?
Sure.
Or like
I mentioned, look, just as a bit of an idea, but everybody is different. 30% of the time you might be promoting yourself, your specials, your services, but not in a too salesy way. You know, trying to show that you're actually thinking of their best interests. Like, for instance, you know, summer's coming, put on your best face, come and see us about a face peel or something like that, if that was a service you wanted, for instance. You might run a competition. You might ask, you might run a survey or a poll saying, what are your top beauty concerns? And then maybe that's how you start providing the answers. But, you know, in some ways, think of it like a newsletter. If you were sending out a newsletter, what would you be including in there? Have you got a new product? Have you got a new staff member? What's happening in your world? Have you treated a celebrity lately? That's all newsy. You know, that's good stuff you could share too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. There's just a few tips for you. Okay, Christina said you could also follow bigger beauty businesses. That's a really good suggestion, like Endota Spa, and you could offer a model to use as a template. I like that idea. Do look at other people in your industry and go from there. Now I'm going to group up some of the questions I'm getting on the text area, and you might like to drop me a question too. Some people ask me about the workbook. Now I mentioned that at the start of the webinar, so if you got on late you may have missed that. Basically, when you registered, you would have got a link to download the workbook. It's from a website called smallbusinesswebinars.com.au. So I really encourage you to go on there and download it. And there's exercises in the workbook. There's more explanation about some of the things I've been talking about today, and you may find that really useful. Okay, and I think Jag's answering some of you. We've got a facilitator on answering as fast as he can. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover off the last few slides, and if people who still have their hand up want to stay online, I will keep taking questions afterwards. But for those of you who do have to skip off, I want to wrap it up. 12:30, we have more webinars coming up, people. Next week, we're talking about cloud computing. Really cool topic, one of my favorites, just like this one. You want to learn what cloud computing is, whether your business could be using it, whether maybe you already are and didn't even know it. Jump on next week and I'll teach you as much as I can in an hour about cloud computing. Search engine optimization, come on the 29th and learn about that. Business continuity planning. Now that's not as sexy a topic as the first two at the moment, but it's a very, very important one. Basically, it's all about disaster management. You know, we live in Queensland, people, and we are, the reality is, going to have another storm season. There are cyclones. There's a lot of rain predicted. There could be floods again. What does that mean to your business? What are some things you can do to make sure you get through it? Get on that webinar and I'll tell you. Local search marketing, if you want to know more about Foursquare, I noticed someone did ask me at the start about Gowalla and market share. I'll be talking all about that on the 6th of December. Facebook Places, Boink, etc. Love you to join me for that as well. Now, somebody else has also asked, is it possible to download a copy of the slides? They are also on that small business webinar site. On there are slides, there is a workbook, there is a recording on YouTube of the last session, and we will upload this session post-event as soon as we can get it up. There's even transcriptions. If you want to read word for word what I said or share it with your team, you can also do that. Now, I want you to also know that Dee, apart from offering these wonderful small business webinars, and if you've enjoyed today, please do spread the word about those other sessions I've just let you know about to your friends, colleagues. We welcome you on. Look, they also have other touch points. They've got a website, business.qld.gov.au. That is extensive what's on there. Go on there, you can search for funding opportunities. I was just finding some new exciting ones for myself yesterday. Templates, they have checklists, they have answers to all sorts of common business questions. Make that website bookmarked and your best friend. Business hotline, you can call them 132523. Go put that in your phone now. If you've got any business question, how do I do this? Who do I speak to about that? I have a problem, I have something to offer. That is who you call, you know, really important as well. And I am pleased to announce the first time I've included these next two on a DD presentation. They have a Facebook, did you know? Business QLD Gov. Go on there, like their page, and you can also follow them on Twitter. And who knows, they might even follow you back. So jump on there and there's another action point for you. Now, I also do have a little link for you. It's actually part of our contract with Dee that we do need to get you to provide us with your feedback on what you thought of today, what was good, what was bad, what wasn't. I do want you to understand that I'm always dealing with a lot of different levels on these webinars. Some of you may have never even looked at Facebook, never logged in, don't have an account. Others of you might be quite proficient. So please understand, I do what I can in the time I have, and I try and cover a lot of bases. But hopefully if you've left with just even one or two new tips, then hopefully the exercise has been worthwhile. Okay, as I said, if you need to log off right now, feel free. Otherwise, those of you with your hands up, I will unmute and take a few more questions. I'm getting some nice thank yous. Thank you very much for everyone who is logging off and sending me nice messages right now. Okay, Sharon Loth, are you there? Sharon Loth, you have your hand up? No, she's quickly put it down. This is funny. It's a good game. Stephanie Poon, how about you? Did you have a question? Stephanie Poon, did you have a question? You have your hand up? No, thank you, she says. Okay. Just put your hands down, people, because I will keep unmuting you, presuming you do have a question if they're up. Tamara Plain, did you have a question?
No.
Okay, you have your hand up too. That's all right. I'll keep pushing on. And what about you, Tash Savage? Do you have a question? Tash, are you there?
That's come out there, isn't it?
It is.
Tash, did you have a question? I think she's doing something else altogether. Okay, Katrina's just put her up. Did you have a question, Katrina?
Can you hear me okay?
I sure can. Yay!
Hi, hey Yvette, thank you for an awesome webinar today. I've really got some great little tips out of it. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So thank you. Can you please explain hashtags a little bit better? I'm still a little bit foggy on how they work in Twitter.
Sure. Basically, they're a way of aggregating or collating or amassing tweets on a particular topic. So, like I mentioned, the Queensland floods one, you know, when there was so much communication going out about that from all sorts of different people, to aggregate that, to amass that, they used the hashtag QLD floods, so that if you wanted to make a mention, you could put that in there. So nobody owns hashtags. You can just create one and start using it. So for instance, we ran that event last night, Web Wednesday. Look, there might be other Web Wednesdays in the world, but we say at the event, use the hashtag Web Wednesday when you're talking about tonight's event, because then if anyone wants to follow what's happening at that event, they follow that hashtag, because you can do a search in Hootsuite or on actual Twitter itself for the hashtag Web Wednesday. Does that make sense?
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah? So it could be something very generic like iPad or apps, you know, which you can't own, which lots of people deal in and do and relate to, or it could be something very specific. I mean, there's been hashtags created like, what's a good one? I can't think of one, but like praising other companies, like hashtag good job done or something like that. So you can actually, you know, say someone did something wonderful for you and do a hashtag with that. So there's really nice ways of using them as well.
Cool, I'll go and have a play. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for your lovely chats throughout the presentation too. I did get them, just hard to get back to everybody. Matt, you've got your hand up. Heya. You there, Matt? More? Matt, you've got your hand up. Did you have anything to share? No, perhaps not. All right, I've been through the whole list from A to Z. I'm just going to have a quick look at the chats and see if I've missed anything. Okay, I think most of them were to do with getting copies of the workbook and things. Okay, Emma Collette said, I'm having trouble with understanding how to get and use apps and tabs. Looks like that Jag has already answered you though, so I might leave that one. Thank you, Jag, for that support. Someone did also ask me, what's the difference between likes and fans? Look, it's just terminology. Facebook pages used to be fans and now they're likes. So if I've said both, it's because I just was in the habit of saying fans. The correct terminology now is actually likes. So one and the same, basically. Hopefully that's helpful to you. All right, people, I think I'm going to wrap it up here, but if you could please, please, please fill in the survey. It only take you a moment. I'd really like to know what you thought of today, and I really hope to see you on future webinars and to continue to help you grow and succeed as a business. Thanks so much for logging on.